Okay, well, welcome to the last week of classes. Let me cover some administrative details first before we get started with our presentations. First of all, I kind of need just a reminder, the posters you're presenting this week, you're going to submit those, and we'll have a copy of them, we'll grade them. That will be part of your grade for this, for your presentation. So that should be on Canvas. Any questions about that? Those are due when? Wednesday? I need a picture of your team. I need a team photo. In years past, we would do this at the capstone event, but we're not going to be doing the capstone event. So I need, if you're not going to be presenting in person, if you're going to be presenting in person, like I've got one team here that's going to, then we can get your picture. But if you're not, you're going to have to submit either a team photo to Jan or individual photos so we can put them together as a team. And I think Jan's got that all set up on Canvas, right? Yeah. So look for that and follow those instructions. If you do not submit a photo, I'm going to be forced to either to find any photo, use any photo I can find. Typically, I go to your new student conference photo back when you were in high school. So if you don't want me to use that photo, make sure you submit one, okay? All right, okay, good. What else? Final presentations, we have 6 out of 9 scheduled already, so whoever's left, make sure you get that scheduled. You know, we can do those next week, so there's no rush to get them all done this week. I'm sure it'd be nice to kind of spread them out a little bit, so no big deal there. Let's talk about the senior survey. You should see that on Qualtrics. Have y'all seen it? Anybody seen the senior survey? No?
I haven't looked at it yet. No,
it's out there though, right? I'd like you to do that this week. This is basically, this is what we're going to be talking about on Thursday with the department head. Okay, so it'd be good to kind of look at those questions, even if you don't complete it by Thursday. It'll give you an idea of what the department head's going to be asking you about your time here in the Ag Systems curriculum. You know, what did you like about our courses? What did you like least about them? What courses are the most helpful? What courses, you know, need some work? That kind of stuff. How did this major prepare you for getting a job? All those things. Okay. So on Thursday, we're going to be in here after the last 3 presentations. Our department head will lead a discussion about that. So that's going to be about 45 minutes with him. I would like for the room to be mostly full. So although I can't require y'all to be here in person, I want to strongly encourage that, because I don't want him to just be talking to the students on Zoom. So those of you who are on Zoom, if y'all just use your raise your hand icon if you can be here on Thursday in person. Let me count who raises their hand. Okay, or yeah, you have to raise your hands like that. Anybody going to be here in person? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. All right. Well, I'd like to, if I'm not going to have enough people in here in person, I want to tell the department head, don't bother coming. But it looks like we got about 12. How about you guys? You're going to be here? So we've got about half the class. That sounds pretty good. So please make an attempt to be here in person on Thursday. We can maintain social distancing. You can wear your mask and all that stuff, okay? Everybody else needs to be here by using Zoom. Also, I'm going to ask you to do your course evaluation on APHIS. You'll need to go in by the end of the semester. I've only had about 6% of the students do this. Go in and evaluate the course. This is where you talk about how great the instructor was, or how goofed up the instructor was, what we could do better, you know, what kind of learning environment we created. So please do that. That's used for our annual evaluation. We need that. And of course, the final report and your team evaluation is due May 4th. That's just is that a week from today? Yes. That's a week from today. So that's coming up quick. May 4th used to sound like it was a long time away. Now it's not so far away. Today's the 27th. May 4th is next Tuesday. So by next Tuesday, everybody should be wrapped up with the course, unless there's still a presentation or 2 out there that we haven't done yet. So we can extend those out into next week as well. All right. Any questions about the administration of this course before we get into our presentations?
I got a question from Zach. He asked, does the team photo have like a dress code, professional dress code?
Does the team photo have a dress code? You know, that would be nice. Ideally, it would be like you're standing there doing your poster presentation at the capstone thing, but not requiring anybody to wear a tie or anything. Probably be good to wear a collared shirt, something nice. Don't wear your ACDC shirt or, you know, my parents went to Cancun and all I got was this t-shirt. Don't wear that shirt, okay? Wear something nice. But it doesn't have to be fancy. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions? All right, so what's going to happen next is for the next hour, we're going to have 6 teams present, teams 1 through 6 in that order. So let's get team 1 up here. What we're going to do, the way this is going to work is we're going to allow about 5 minutes, no more than 5 minutes for your talking, that kind of stuff. And then we'll allow about 5 minutes for questions, and then we'll get the next team. So about 10 minutes per team, we should be done before 11, okay? So try not to be long-winded, all right? You're basically going to be graded on your ability to communicate in a very short amount of time what the highlights of your project, your problem, and your solution are, okay? Okay, let's get team 1 going.
All right, well, good morning, everyone. My name is Douglas Dendy. With me today are my teammates Damian Salazar, Dylan Montgomery, and Riley Eggemeyer. This semester, we've been working on safety measures and contingents during COVID-19, and I'm going to get us started today by going over our executive summary. At the beginning of the semester, our clients tasked us with modifying the work environment or work practices within ginning facilities to minimize the spread of COVID-19. In order to accomplish this task, our group created a decision tree, which you can see in the middle of our poster here, which we believe is the best way to minimize the risk for all employees involved. Our decision tree provides guidance to managers and employees whenever there is a question related to potential exposure, as well as what steps to take immediately following in any given scenario. And with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Dylan, who's going to talk about our problem description.
Thanks, Doug. So as Doug was kind of saying, cotton gins were part of an essential industry, so they were required to continue operating during COVID-19. So our goal for this project was to determine how do we safely and effectively keep gins operating throughout the pandemic. Some of the things we looked at was physical or policy changes, just looking at trying to standardize decision making across all the gins, and also looking at employees living in shared housing, which is very common in gin crews across the state. So the recommended solution, as Doug said, is pictured here in the middle of the slide. It contains exposure criteria at the very top, listing symptoms of COVID-19 as 2 major parts of guidance. Making sure everybody's aware of what their exposure and possible symptoms are. It contains 3 decision paths, 2 for COVID positive, either having symptoms or having tested positive. And then it has a path for no symptoms, but determining if an employee was possibly exposed. This document is formatted in Microsoft Word, so that way once it's turned over to our clients, it can be modified as CDC guidelines change, making sure that it's always as effective as possible. We will provide our clients with an English and Spanish version for those employees who may speak little to no English. And the goal was to design a very easy to use decision tree, so that way, no matter any employee's skill level, they could easily follow it or get assistance from somebody who could help them. I'm going to pass it off to Damien to talk about our implementation plan.
All right, thanks, Dylan. So as Dylan was saying, we're going to be able to send this to our clients. They'll be able to modify it and change it just any way that they see fit. And we recommend that they appoint someone who's in charge of dealing with like every COVID just action, as in just all the information such as reported symptoms, cases, potential exposures, things like that. This will allow them to be able to keep track of just everything, and it's the best way to keep employees safe and being able to work as long as possible without having any downtime. We really want there to be a lot of education with this. So, such as in safety meetings, you can teach symptoms, since, I mean, almost anything can be a symptom of COVID. It's best for the employees to understand what is and isn't related to this. Um, with the tree itself, it can be posted on websites, and it's also going to be able to be turned into a poster where we want to put it in high traffic areas so that every employee can see it. So these will be places such as break rooms, entrances and exits to the facilities, and outside of bathrooms. But yeah, so the gyms, they should have their like COVID manager person or head of COVID response to just keep track of everything from month to month, compare the data for each gym separately, and just see what's working and what's not. And if they need to update and change anything, they'll be able to modify it accordingly. And I'll hand this off to Riley to close this out.
I appreciate it, Damien. For our risk analysis, there's 3 main components to mitigate. The first will be complacency. In order to mitigate this risk, it's important to make it clear that this is additional guidance to actions already taking place in the workforce across the country. To mitigate ineffectiveness, we made sure that this is very easy to follow. It's given in English and Spanish. The formatting will be in Word, which makes it modifiable at any point, making it as effective as possible. If employees were to deny any exposures or symptoms they have, that only hurts themselves and their coworkers. The decisions on our tree are made to ensure the safety of all employees. Pay schedules will also be provided to those who have to quarantine, so they don't feel like they're missing out on the money, so they will lie about their symptoms. And we have a special thanks out to Kelly Green, which is part of the Texas Cotton Ginners Association, Dr. Greg Holt, part of USDA, and Dr. Robert Harden, which is Ag Systems Management Advisor. And that's our presentation. If y'all have any questions, we can answer them.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? In the classroom here first, anybody? Caleb, go ahead. I assume you did, no?
So I like how they included it where it's big enough to where you can still get a layout of it. I like the design of the poster itself. It's very streamlined.
Any questions from the Zoom? Any comments? Yeah, this is a challenge because your solution is a big flow chart with lots of boxes where the font has to be pretty small. So we can't really read the font here in the classroom. I think if this was a poster and you had printed this well enough, the font would be big enough where you could actually sit here and talk through it. So let me just take a minute and ask this team, just work through this solution real quick. Maybe use your mouse and say, go through the middle track. What would happen if someone has symptoms? So talk me through how the solution would work if someone had symptoms.
Okay, so basically we, starting from the top, working your way down, just kind of making it a flow. If an employee determines they've been exposed, then they can immediately make their way to this table right here where it lists, all the common symptoms of COVID-19. If they were to identify one or more of these symptoms, they would make their way down this tree right here to yes, I have symptoms. First thing in this major box right here, this is for employees, no matter whether they live in a private residence or shared residence. They'll immediately begin to self-isolate as soon as they identify that they have symptoms. So if they identify while they're at work, they do not need to continue working if they, currently have symptoms. They should contact their healthcare provider and follow their instructions. A lot of times they may not tell you to immediately get tested, just in the event that something, one of the CDC guidelines changes. So contact your healthcare provider and also continue to monitor your symptoms during your self-isolation. If they, get severe or, you can't breathe, different things like that, you do need to immediately call 911. Don't continue to self-isolate while they get that bad. And then the tree breaks down to employees with private residences and employees with shared residences. Employees with private residences during self-isolation, they just restrict their activities outside of their home. So basically staying in their private residence. Most likely will have, families, different things like that. So isolating away from, family members so they don't, transmit it that way. But the main idea for this tree was to make sure that there was guidance for employees with shared residences. So you'll make your way over to this box, which is shared between the two COVID positive paths. And basically the difference is it's limiting movement in the personal areas of your shared residence. So if you have private areas where you can work, we also listed here at the bottom of this box to, have gen managers kind of have plans in place for those employees who do shared residences for a way for them to isolate away from other employees. So, prevent further spread within that crew. And then this main box here at the bottom is shared, and it just gives you the guidance on when you can return after positive symptoms. So 10 days after your positive test, if you never develop symptoms, you can return to work.
Okay, thank you, Dylan. Thanks, Team One. So this is a pretty good example of how we're going to do this. Your team is going to, report for a few minutes, and then we're going to interact a little bit, and then we're going to move on to the next team like we're going to do now. But another function of this whole process is, the other team members probably don't have any idea, or the other teams in the class don't have any idea how these other projects have gone. So you're going to get a little bit of a snapshot into what the other teams have been doing, and hopefully that'll be interesting too. Okay, well, let's switch it over to, I would say let's give them a hand, but I just got a few people here, so we're not going to applaud for everybody. Let's move on to team number 2. Watch the cord here when you come up. Okay, when we're ready. I'll try to get out the presentation side. Yes. We'll help them out, Excellent. Okay.
Howdy y'all, we are Team 2. I'm Daniel Brown. I'm joined by Wayne Johnson, Caleb Yarborough, and Reed Machek, and we'll be discussing our project over plastic detection within the third eye module. So to give you all a little bit of a brief overview, the problem we were presented with was, as I said, detecting plastic within the third eye module feeder. Plastic detection is a big issue within the cotton industry right now, costing upwards of hundreds of millions of dollars a year in total. And this is due in part to the new relatively new John Deere stripper that wraps the round bale in a thick plastic wrap that can then get caught up in the system or end up in the final product, which ends up losing the gen money. There have been solutions made for gen module feeders in the past. However, this particular module feeder cannot use these solutions because they consist of basically just a camera in the back of the module feeder to see. But the third eye module feeder has 2 rows of spindles that are used to tear down the module. And so you can't see anything in front of that first row of spindles. So I will now pass it off to Caleb Yarborough, and he'll give you all a little bit more information.
All right. Good morning, everyone. So just to kind of begin with our recommended solution, from the beginning of this project, we decided that we really didn't want to reinvent the wheel. There's been quite a bit of research done in similar problems faced in conventional module feeders. So we thought that that's been good proven data and good proven research. So we've just kind of applied that to our scenario. So this is a camera and lighting combination that we decided to go with. This is an on-bit compliant DeHua camera that's very similar to one that's been done, used in research by Dr. Greg Pohl, one of our clients. And as far as the lighting goes, we were kind of debating between a 6-inch light bar, that's what we ended up choosing, or a 20-inch light bar. And we felt that the 6-inch light bar would give us a lot more versatility and be a lot more applicable to our solution. This is a 2D CAD drawing of kind of the layout of how we intend to implement our components into the system. I will admit, unfortunately, we were unable to get the detailed schematics of the actual machine itself, so this is just going off of research that we've been able to find and our best estimate of what we would feel would be the most effective solution. That's why it's missing some dimensions. On an economic analysis, the system is going to cost right at under $1,000, $935.96. Our research has found that loss due to contamination in cotton bales is roughly 6 cents per pound or $30 per finished bale of cotton. So factoring that in, we estimate the break-even number of bales to be 32 once the system is up and operating and able to detect more and more plastic contamination and get it out of finished cotton. And that's going to make the client a lot more money and revenue, and it's going to have a lot less problems for the end consumer. This is an implementation Gantt chart that Reed came up with. And as you can see, it's going to be a relatively short installation period. You can have this done in 6 hours. We have estimated that the most time-intensive process is going to be the acquiring of components and also training the employees in the gen and troubleshooting any problems with the software package that's going to be wired into. Finally, just our final acknowledgments. I want to thank the clients, Dr. Greg Holt and Mr. Kelly Green, as well as our AGSM faculty advisor, Dr. Robert Hart. And now we are opening up this question from the audience.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? I'll start. Talk me through your diagram, how the cotton flows through and how the light illuminates the plastic and how the camera detects it and all that stuff. So see if you can do that.
Yes, sir. So this is the entry side of the module feeder. This is where the bales will be transported on a walking floor system into the feed rolls. We have 2 lights that will be angled downward towards kind of the spindles, where this system is going to integrate in with a software package that's wired into the GENS PLC. So what it does is every so often it will pause the feed rolls and allow kind of all of the ambient cotton inside the module feeder to settle. And these cameras will take, because it's going to be on a live feed, but also when it stops, it's going to take a snapshot of the roll of the feed rolls. And it's going to see if there's any plastic contamination detected or present. That being the case, if there is, employees on the floor will then remove it. And that same principle on the back here, you're going to have 2 lights shining down on this rear set of feed rollers and 1 camera, because we decided, talking with Dr. Hart and the client, the most important area kind of a focus is going to be the front set of feed rollers, specifically the bottom 3 or 4. And so that's where the majority, we have 2 cameras on the front as well as 2 lights, because that's where we really want to focus on detecting that plastic contamination and getting it out of the system. That way, because the more that gets collected on the feed rollers, the higher likelihood there is of it being shredded and moving further in the system. That answer your question, Frank?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's move along to team number 3. Good job, fellas. Y'all can have a seat. Imagine a room full of people we can do some applause. That's what we do. Let me ask students in the Zoom room, could y'all hear their presentation okay? Give me a thumbs up if yes. Okay, thank you. Dr. Castell, are you able to keep up with this okay? You following along all right? I haven't checked in with you, I'm sorry. There we go.
Yeah, I'm here. Everything is good. Let me quickly ask Team 2. They chose to have only 2 members present, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Yeah, I'm here. Everything is good. Thanks.
3, can you share it?
D3, share your slides and you may begin. There we go, we can see them. Make them bigger, please, presentation mode.
Yes, sir. I'm getting to it.
Get to it. Okay. Yeah, real good. All right, go ahead.
Is everything able to be seen?
Yes.
Alrighty. So the problem that we were given is out in South Texas in Arguellas, in a 100-acre tract, trying to find a agricultural crop that can grow in poor soil and harsh weather conditions, and find an irrigation system that can meet those demands for what we find to a solution. Out there, we kind of are looking at no commercial power. The water availability is very scarce with high parts per million in the water that we use, and then just poor soil quality. The weather conditions out there are ranging from typically low 30s all the way to upper hundreds during the summer. And if you're looking at our graph over here, that it's hard to see it, but that tank, right, that little water pocket is our 3-acre pond that we're given. And then just above here is the 100-acre tract. And what we came across as a whole team is looking at with the water available that we have from rainfall and looking at just the area, we decided to do a 90-acre tract of dryland wheat planted and just only using rainfall as our irrigation. And then for the other 10 acres, we would be using watermelon and a drip irrigation system method that will be ran off by a diesel generator to power all the water system. And then if the client did decide to go through with this, it would start in March 14th, 2022, and then a whole year span, it would end out in April 9th, 2013, and then you just restart the process over again by taking care of the field cultivating.
Thank you, Colin. So doing economic analysis of this recommended solution, we did it on a 5-year basis because our client wanted to see a profit on 5 years after this investment. So if you see from the chart there, the initial investment is a little over $10,000. It's mainly for the pump for the irrigation system for the watermelon, and the irrigation system for that watermelon. And after all that, we see a 5-year profit loss of a little over $9,000. You can also see the payback period is after year 3. So beginning in year 3, we start to actually see a profit from that initial investment. And the return on investment for that 5 years is 90.2%. The major risks that we saw that would affect our financial standing at the end of the project were mainly the weather conditions and the crop price variation. With the weather conditions, if we were to not receive the amount of rain that we needed for the wheat, then we would be not having a good wheat crop. And so in order to mitigate that, we actually, with the economic analysis, we expected we used numbers for a lower wheat yield. That way we weren't overestimating our profit. And then also for the crop price variation, with the fluctuation of crop prices, that could also change our financial standing as well. And we'd like to thank the people that have helped us with this project, mainly Dr. Keeman, who's our faculty advisor, as well as the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service, and Dr. Dana Porter. She's worked with the bio and ag engineering teams before, and we want to thank her, as well as Grayson Wilmoth. He's a South Texas farmer, and Mr. Rainey, our client. Thank you.
Any questions?
What other crops did y'all consider before you selected on dry wheat?
We were looking at oats, sesame, milo, and I think it was also corn, but those just require too much substantial water amounts to get even a profitable yield.
Good question. Any other questions? Yeah, just to give y'all talk a minute about the evolution of this project. You guys had you know, you kind of ended up about halfway through the semester with a well that was going to make the whole project unprofitable. Talk about that, and then how you transitioned to this solution.
Yeah, we were in a little bit of a hole with a $300,000 loss. And so after basically starting from scratch a couple weeks ago, Dr. Kingman steered us to Dr. Porter, and we spoke with her on a Tuesday evening for about an hour and a half and just kind of talked things over and how it's just inefficient. The well that we would be drilling would barely supply a household. So the water usage to fill up the pond for after purifying it would not be just economically feasible. And then Jason talked with Mr. Grayson Wilmuth on kind of, he's close in that area, and he kind of said either would be watermelon or a type of bean. I can't remember it. But watermelon would be a better suit for us on to do that. And then the other 10 acres, since winter wheat was kind of more the crop that could take, I guess you want to say, less water, but also still give a decent yield, and you can always bale it instead of harvest it completely as a second option.
Okay, that was a good explanation. Let me ask you a question with regard, looking at just focusing on these acknowledgments here. Tell the class about a resource you discovered that was previously undiscovered that you would recommend to the whole class in terms of if you have a problem in the future, who are you going to call? Talk about that.
I don't know on that one.
You understand what I'm asking?
Rephrase.
Who really helped you out here in getting you in a more realistic, feasible solution?
Dr. Porter.
Yeah. So what I'm saying here is, as a graduate of Texas A&M, and really as a citizen of Texas, you have at your resource, as one of your resources, the whole Texas AgriLife Extension system. And Dana Porter is just one of a whole constellation of experts out there who specialize in different areas. And so you need to, we don't give you a class in that, but you guys discovered that in this project, and I think some of the rest of you may have talked to an extension specialist as well. So Texas AgriLife Extension is a resource that you need to keep in your hip pocket. You may not know the answer, but you need to know their phone number, and they will help you find the answer, just like Dr. Porter did. Okay. So who are these extension specialists? Well, Dr. Porter's a graduate of this department. So we've got engineering extension specialists. We've got and she specializes in irrigation. There are irrigation specialists from all across the College of Agriculture. So there are crop specialists from the Soil and Crop Sciences Department. There's wildlife and fisheries specialists out there. A lot of your classmates that are in different majors are going to end up working for AgriLife Extension. Some of you may end up working for AgriLife Extension. And so you need to avail yourself, of that resource. And maybe we need to do a better job at the beginning of our curriculum, letting you know that they're out there for you. What they do is they extend the knowledge of Texas A&M College of Agriculture to the citizens of Texas who pay for it. And so that's what these extension specialists do. Dr. Castell, you have anything to add on that?
No, I agree with you, and I know that Dr. Porter was critical for the success of this project. So you have to be aware of that source in the department and in AgriLife. Good job, anyway.
Yeah, good job. All right, let's transition over to Team 4. Doing pretty good on time. We're halfway through it.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Rebecca Seal. My teammates are Andres Brule, Mackenzie Bryant, and Joe Gunn. We're Team 4. We had a rural garden development in a food desert. So our client had a 5-acre plot of land in Aguilares, Texas, which is about 12 miles southeast of Laredo. On site was a small tank that collected rainwater and a 4.5-acre plot of land. And some of the challenges that we were presented is that in this area, there are some very harsh weather conditions. There's only about 20 inches of rain every year. In the summer, it gets up to 90 degrees on average. And the soil has a pH of between 7.5 and 8.0. And so we had to choose some crops that were suitable for this climate. We had to work around the harsh weather conditions. We had to think of things to work around pests and livestock on the land. And we had to figure out a way to transport the water from the on-site tank to our fields.
So our recommended solution has 3 main parts to it. The first part is an irrigation system with a water pump, and this will move the water we have in the 1-acre storage pond to the crops using a drip irrigation system. And then we have 4 high tunnels, and these will be used as protection from the weather conditions for the certain crops we'll put in there. And then the last part to our solution is a fixed-knot fence to keep unwanted wildlife. And then we have solar coverings to shield the crops from the harsh weather conditions in this area.
All right, next is the economic analysis section. The first table shows the costs and cash flows for the first 5 years. Our investment, which included a pump, the drip irrigation system, the fence, and the solar coverings, that came out to just over $11,000. Our annual operating costs included tractor rental, purchase of seeds, purchase of fertilizer, and our labor. That was just under $32,000. The revenue was calculated as like per crop first, per acreage, and then those were summed up to be just over $40,000. By subtracting the operating costs from the revenue, you can see our period 1 through 5 cash flows to be just over $9,000. For the second table, it shows the payback period to be just under 1 year and 3 months. The internal rate of return to be 76.8%. And our net present value was calculated using a 6% discount rate. That came out to be just under $29,000 for the 5 years.
All right, so I'll be going over the risk mitigation implementation. So the main concerns for our project, one of the main risks was injuries, and the way we would mitigate it would be with trained personnel and managers to be sure that our workers are following safety guidelines. The next one was price fluctuations, and the way we're going to mitigate this is by studying the market and also getting contracts to get fixed prices on our supplies and on what we are selling. The last one is weather, and it would be to pay attention to forecast and plan ahead of time. So if we see any weird stuff coming up, we can plan ahead, like the snowstorm, and empty our pipes and stuff. For the implementation plan, we split it into 3 sections as the high tunnels, irrigation system, and garden area. The high tunnels are built with chain link tubing and cloth, and it would require around 33.5 hours of labor. And it is represented in the green boxes on the project network. The irrigation system is represented on the blue boxes on the project network, and that one would require some specialists to install the pump and make sure it's running well and give it maintenance. For the garden area, we're going to use the tractor to clear the land and till, and we will use labor for the fence, and that is our yellow boxes down the middle, and our critical path time is 23 days to set up the project. We would like to thank our client, Mr. William Ranney from STAR, and our advisor, Mr. Stark. If y'all have any questions, we will be more than glad to answer.
Okay, we got time for some questions. So if anybody has any questions, ask away.
Did you guys select any crops, or were you guys just designing kind of the system to where they're going to be grown?
So we actually did select crops. We have a bunch. There's broccoli, cucumbers, bell peppers, asparagus, cantaloupe, tomato, and spinach. Most of those were placed in an acre by themselves. The cucumbers and the spinach, I believe, were in the high tunnels, which was right at about a tenth of an acre for each.
All right, good question. Yeah, I was wondering that myself. The crops didn't make it onto the slide. I probably would have put that on there. And while we're on that topic, again, how many acres do these high tunnels call? There's 4 high tunnels. And how many acres is in cultivation beneath the high tunnels? Around 5, right, or less?
It's actually a very small area. I don't even think it would be wise to measure it in acres, because down there it says that they're 24 by 105 each, and there's 4 of them.
Okay. Yeah, so each high tunnel, 24 feet by 105 feet. Okay, gotcha. All right. Any other questions?
I like how you use the critical path for old Colonel's old classes.
Yeah, this is pretty nice. What I didn't notice, and Andreas kind of brought this out in his presentation, the colors are correlated with the implementation steps. So the high tunnel construction, I think that's supposed to be in green here. The irrigation is in blue, and the garden area is in tan here. You know, Andres, if we had a little more time to think about it, I would probably tell you to have that legend somehow up here. I don't know, maybe you could have each one of those text box, have a text box around each one of those 3 major steps, and then color it in to match what you've got here. But that looks real nice. Okay. And you've got the critical path time is 23 days. Probably be good to put it right here. But we're getting into a little bitty stuff now. Okay, anybody else? All right, good job. Let's move on to team number 5. Looks good. We can see it. You may begin when ready.
So our project is mainly the marketing of solar microgrid systems. I'm Matthew Benavides, and my teammates are Joshua Dreisbach, Colin Ferreira, and Cordell Koffel. A little bit about our background. The TerraVolt Energy Company, located in New Braunfels, Texas, is responsible for solar and energy storage development and also an electricity brokerage operation, which is kind of like the stock market for electricity. They typically buy energy in the morning hours of 2 3 a.m. and they sell it in the high peak hours for a higher cost. The project summary: we're mainly responsible for performing an economic analysis on the transportable solar microgrid systems. We are in charge of the cost, finding the cost to produce the product as a whole, and also which industries to market to. The engineering team is handling mainly the design of the product. We are responsible for finding the best solutions to market the solar microgrid efficiently to the industries, and we have been coming up with the production cost and the materials that the engineering team has given us the prices. The targeted industries that we found to be the most effective for our product, the use of our product, are the construction industry, the oil and gas industry, local, state, and national government as well. I'm going to hand it over to Joshua to cover the material costs.
How's it going, guys? So our project obviously is this portable microgrid system, which is just another version or area, excuse me, that TerraVolt can use to basically run their electricity brokerage operation and sell these to these three industries: construction, oil and gas, and then all the different forms of government around the nation, in order for them to use it in the most efficient way possible for them. So our engineering team has gotten with us and kind of given us all the materials that we need in order for this to run most efficiently. You can kind of see a diagram there on the middle of the screen. Essentially, it's the product blown out into all the different parts separated. Obviously, all this stuff is going to be inside the storage container. The batteries, all the roll cage metal, the AC unit in order to keep the batteries at a constant temperature, which can also run off of the batteries themselves, and then solar panels, which will be shipped in another container to go on the roof to keep replenishing the power inside the container. So we found all these together. Depending on which module is chosen, there's three different types of modules: 100 kilowatt hours, 250 kilowatt hours, and 500 kilowatt hours. All those prices are listed there at $123,000, $218,000, and $408,000 each. That main price change is going to be in those batteries because they are so big and powerful. They do cost quite a bit in terms of just financial needs. So our implementation plan for the marketing side of things on how to exactly target these industries kind of goes as follows. We feel like hiring, obviously, a sales team on the road is going to be a very good option, going company to company and kind of showing them how portable this product is and exactly how beneficial it can be to their company. We also feel like creating a demo unit in order to take these on the road to go to these very prominent energy conventions that happen regularly throughout the year. Most of the time it's during the late spring to early fall, that time frame all the way through the summers when they normally happen. So having the team on the road there with a demo unit, we feel is a great way to market this product, especially since transportation is one of the main benefits of it. We also feel like running LinkedIn ads to these target companies and people that work at them is a great use of money, especially since it's not a very high cost solution. It's only cost about 80 cents per send. So how LinkedIn ads worked is you send a DM, you basically pay to DM a person or a company about your company or product. The risk in having this product happen or put into the market is we are competing pretty heavily with established fuel-based systems that are similar to this. That would be like diesel tanks on trucks and such, going to different oil rigs and different construction sites in order to power their needs. Also, failed demos is always a risk, whether that's something happening with a forklift going wrong or just a truck getting in an accident. All those things are possible, and as well as a large rise in material cost for this system. Metal and plywood is two parts of this system that the prices are just skyrocketing for right now. I believe they've doubled in just the past 6 months. So as long as that keeps going on, it's going to be pretty hard to implement this without rising your entry-level costs. So in order to mitigate this, obviously training in order to get rid of the failed demos. We feel like with proper marketing, we can communicate that this is a better solution than the fuel-based counterpart. And then we also feel like the best way to mitigate the large rise in material cost is to kind of go on an order-by-order basis in order to not buy a whole bunch of material now in case the price of the materials starts going down soon. So that is our product and kind of our project for the semester. If y'all have any questions, please let me know.
Any questions or comments on this project?
I have one really quickly. I think y'all's poster, like organizational wise, is really good. I would just like really quickly say like one side is really image heavy and the other side's more word heavy. So maybe consider like a better balance of like images across your poster. So it's not all like pictures on one side and words on the other.
Gotcha.
That's a good comment. I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Also, I feel like this text is really big, and it's this nice big text. Probably a little too big because it crowded out your network diagram here, where you can't read it all. So probably a little more balance there. Maybe you could have shrunk this down and spread this out more across the bottom. But yeah, it's all kind of a puzzle you have to work when you're putting together a poster. Any other comments or questions?
I agree with the comments. I think it's very good flow. I actually like the larger text and minimum text. I like that. It didn't bother me, even though I agree that your chart was too small. The only thing I will comment on your mitigation, I will not say we feel, I will say we believe, right? Use a less subjective, and you believe this will work. So I would change the word feel to believe. Otherwise, great job.
Okay. Yep. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Got a question here in the class. Go ahead.
You mentioned the price of the LinkedIn ads. I was just wondering if y'all also knew the prices or like rates for hiring those teams for demos, or if you knew the specific like magazines you wanted to be in. Maybe you could mention some of those on the slide.
Yeah, so the question's about what journals and magazines. That kind of be more specific in your marketing targets. Any ideas there?
Yeah, so there's a couple construction based like magazines and journal entries. Obviously, Men's Health has some very targeted audience and overlaps in our just the nature of our industries that we're in. But there is like specific construction based. I think there's like one that's called Construction Daily. I think there's like a construction. I can't remember the name of the second one we looked at, but there are construction based magazines that they run themselves. Those are also physical and digital copy magazines.
Okay, thanks. All right, let's move along to Team 6, and we'll wrap this up. Good, we can see your slide. You may begin when ready.
All right, howdy, my name is Carly from Koyak, and I'm joined by my group members Zach Bankston, Michelle Grauman, and Austin Ross. Our group was tasked with the development of an elderberry processing operation, which would be the first of its kind in the country of Guatemala. The elderberry crop is known for its health benefits when taken as an immune support supplement, and so our client's goal was to create a concentrate that would be sold and further developed into a liquid or gummy tablet type supplement. So each of our potential solutions focused on or followed the same general overview in as far as production goes. And so we focused on the concentration step in which the water is removed from the juice. And so we eventually chose the vacuum distillation system, which enabled us to lower the boiling point of the liquid to extract the water from the juice and avoid damage to the antioxidant properties that would occur to the berries if excessive heat were to be used. So I'm going to pass it over to Zach to go through the concentrate production.
Right, so the concentrate production begins with the berries entering the facility on the bushel like they would have been harvested from. The first thing that happens during the process is an initial water bath to remove any foreign contaminants that may still be on them from the field. This can include dirt and fertilizer, things of that matter. From there, they'll be dried and frozen. The freezing helps preserve them since they have a short shelf life. And it also helps in the removal of the stem process by hardening the exterior of the berries so that they don't get prematurely juiced. After they're frozen, we take them to a mechanical shaker, which can be seen in the bottom left. It's the device with the tube sticking out of the bottom. And that'll shake the berries so that they fall off the stems and get collected underneath. From there, the berries can either be moved back to the freezer for storage for later production or continued down the line into our steam juicer. How the steam juicer works, it keeps a low boiling steam temperature that will extract the juice from the berries without affecting the antioxidants. Once the juice is extracted, it's run through the vacuum distiller and turned into an 80 to 1.25 concentrate, which can then be packaged into gallon-sized containers. One of the other things that we had to consider with this project was the production of what's called bagasse, and that's a byproduct generated from extracting liquids from plant material. It's basically a fibrous plant material, or the leftover skins of the berries. What we ended up deciding to do with that is to dry them and to sell them as a value-added byproduct to local bakeries to add into dishes like danishes and other pastries. With our system, worst case scenario, we're looking at a 12.5-month payback period, which is obviously just over a year. So as far as operating costs and everything, this is a relatively quick payback period. Best case scenario, if we are able to sell all of our products for a decent price, this could pay off in just a month. So I'm going to pass it over to Austin for risk mitigation.
Yeah, so when we were designing the system, we were primarily concerned with two risks. The first risk being that the operation isn't profitable. So to give us the best chance, we designed our system to have a very low operating cost, so $153 a day, and a minimal fixed cost, so the initial buy-in, which is just under $7,000. The second risk we were concerned with is the safety of our employees and the overall safety of the actual product. So to make sure that our product is clean and there's no contamination, all of our equipment would be washed at the end of each day, and so it'd be ready for the next day. To protect our employees, each employee will receive proper training and will be provided proper personal protective equipment. And to ensure that all the toxins are actually removed from the elderberries, we have multiple levels of toxin removal, including the removal of the stems and leaves, the removal of the unripe berries, and the boiling of the actual berries, just to be safe. So Michelle's going to talk about how we plan to implement our plan.
So next for implementation, we have a series of 5 steps that include building preparation, of cleaning and organizing the building. Next, with equipment shipping for acquirement of the equipment seen to the left. And then equipment installation will take 2 days to set everything up. Next, employee training, and then finally contacting buyers who will buy the products. The total time is 35 days, and then seen below is our Gantt chart, where you can see that equipment shipping takes the longest at 28 days. And finally, we would like to acknowledge our faculty advisor, Dr. Moore, and our client, Jonathan Mellon. And now we can open it up for any questions.
Okay, anybody have any questions or comments for this team?
I thought the organization was very well on the poster. I could read and understand everything.
Okay, compliment on the organization. Yeah, I agree. I like the way that you were able to spread out your long Gantt chart, which they typically are like that, over the bottom, and also have the implementation right there kind of next to it. That's a good technique. Anybody else?
I think it's very well organized, nice flow, nice size of text. It looks very good on Zoom. Remember, this is the way that a lot of conferences are moving forward toward to the virtual poster presentation. So this is nice. The only one that's a little blurry is the economic analysis table. So maybe need to do a little work on that. Otherwise, excellent job.
A couple other comments I have. I didn't really catch this when y'all sent, I've seen this flow chart several times, but at first glance, it's pretty busy. And some things that I might do to improve it, this will apply to all of you if you're making a flow chart like this. You know, you've got different, you've got diamonds, you've got rectangles, and you've got rectangles with rounded corners. So you might want to consider putting a little more color there, and also grouping the shapes with like processes. For example, you have three products here. There's frozen berries, there's a value-added byproduct, and there's a packaged concentrate. So maybe each of those should be shaped the same, or maybe even colored the same, so they jump out. You've got three processes where you remove things. Remove stems, remove unripe berries, and remove water. Well, maybe those removal processes should all have the same shape, maybe a diamond or something. So that might be something that would make it a little easier to follow if you can just organize that a little differently. But that's still it's something useful that you can stand up here and point and say, well, we do this, and then we've got that, and over here like that. So that's exactly what this is supposed to be. It's a training aid when you present your ideas.
Colonel, could I respond to your comments on the flowchart? So the reason I chose the shapes for that flowchart was based off of kind of like a standard of what shapes mean during flowcharts. So, and this was off of information that I just pulled off of Google, but ovals are supposed to be inputs and outputs, and then rectangles are just the individual parts of the flowchart, and diamonds generally mean a decision is being made at that point. So when we had, you see there's a diamond for remove stems, there's two parts that could happen. They could either return to the freezer once they've been removed from the stems, or they could continue down the line. And then the remove water is also in a diamond. That was to signify that the hardest portion of this process was deciding how we wanted to remove the water. So that was another decision being made. But sorry, I apologize if it wasn't clear that way.
Yeah, so you used a standard, and that's good. I'm just not so sure that standard was especially helpful in this explanation, because there's not a choice to be made here, although you kind of mentioned that. Not a big deal. That's good. The other thing I would have done is when I sent this back to you, I said, I think y'all just have one item pictured here, and I said, go ahead and put some more pictures on there. And you did. That's good. I would have probably put the name of each one underneath it. So I would have put maybe all four of these here, and then the name of each item underneath it. That way you didn't have to say something like the shaker is the thing with the tube sticking out the bottom. You would have had the label there instead of over here. So still a really nice poster. You got the elderberries there, so nobody is confused about what are we talking about here. This is what the main product is, or the main input. Okay, nice job. Well, let me just kind of close this out here. Give me a second to refocus the camera. Challenge. Back over here to me. Zoom in on that. There. Okay, you can't see everything, I guess. It doesn't matter. Okay, moving forward here, we're going to be back in here on Thursday with the last three teams who are going to present. We'll get through that, and Dr. Tracy will be here. How many do we have total said who were going to make it?
About 13, 1/3 of the class.
Okay, again, I want to encourage you to be here in person. This is designed to be a very candid time between you and the department head, where you can talk about where you can talk about all the things that you complain about the curriculum. This is your time to complain, or not complain. You can mention to him without any instructors here. So you can talk about how great Dr. Castell's class is here. You can talk about how you hate my classes and all that kind of stuff. Or Dr. Kingman or Mr. Stark. You can talk about those things, but we want you to be candid with him and with a view toward what can we do to make this curriculum better. There's nobody in a better position right now to inform us of that than you guys. So I hope y'all will take this seriously and come prepared for constructive criticism. So I'd like to have a few students here, and I appreciate those of you who committed to be here in person. So we'll meet here again on Thursday. We'll get those 3 presentations knocked out, and then we'll turn it over to Dr. Tracy, who will then visit with you for the remainder of the time. Okay? What else do I need to talk about, y'all?
I think that's it.
Okay, don't forget to submit your posters. I think they're due tomorrow. These posters that you've submitted today, you're fine. You don't need to make any changes on them. Everybody's going to get decent grades on your posters. But I think they actually get submitted to to Canvas tomorrow, right? You can submit them early if you want to, no penalty for that. And keep working on scheduling those final presentations.